The only local news at 8 a.m.
It is 8:20. Well, millions of Americans suffer from stomach problems, and there are some new ways of treating them. We'll have details when we come back. Well, testing and treatments for some surprisingly common chronic stomach issues are shifting and may offer new relief. Dr. Mark Pimentel, a GI researcher of 20+ years, shares some of his insight in a new science in his book, The Microbiome Connection. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about something I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable about, but definitely can relate to.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Yeah, good to be with you as well. So to start, I think it's really confusing as there's a lot of common conditions that we hear of: SIBO, irritable bowel disease, other food allergies, or even intolerances. They often have similar symptoms. Is there a way to tell these common ones apart?
Well, as you said, this affects millions of Americans. In fact, up to 30 to 45 million Americans suffer from either irritable bowel syndrome, bacterial overgrowth, which is SIBO, and food allergies. And sometimes it is tough to separate them, but there are diagnostic tests. For example, some of the symptoms, abdominal pain, bloating, and diarrhea, are quite common. Celiac disease usually gives you chronic diarrhea, whereas SIBO or IBS tends to give you more bloating, abdominal pain, and changes in bowel function. But there are tests available. For example, a breath test is very useful at diagnosing bacterial overgrowth, which is very easy to treat these days.
Yeah, well, and I know a lot of people, too, will try the elimination diet where they try to cut out certain foods or nutrients that they think might be causing these types of things. There's obviously a lot of misunderstanding, though, about what to eat or how to eat to help your body. So I want to talk about some common myths here. One that you like to tackle involves fiber.
Right. Yeah, so fiber is healthy for you. It's good for your colon and may protect against colon cancer. But if you have a buildup of bacteria in the small intestine called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you're basically feeding the bacteria of your gut all that wonderful fiber. You don't digest it, but they do, and they give you a lot of symptoms. You'll have a lot more bloating, gas, and distension. So fiber usually is not so good if you have bacterial overgrowth.
Yeah, what about probiotics? I know it's a buzzword used to target people who have stomach insensitivities or diseases of some sorts. What's your take on probiotics and how you would recommend them to people dealing with these types of issues?
So as this term microbiome continues to evolve and we start to continue to understand the science better, some of these probiotics that we thought were beneficial are turning out not to be as beneficial in certain circumstances. Again, speaking on the condition of having too much bacteria in your small intestine, adding more isn't helping because they need to eat too and they produce gas and bloating. And so you have to use probiotics for the circumstance in which there's evidence that it works. And I think in small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and to some extent irritable bowel syndrome, there isn't a lot of good evidence that they would be beneficial. In celiac disease also, it's uncommon that probiotics would be of benefit to patients. But there are other conditions in which it is somewhat helpful. But check with your doctor to know what's best for you.
Right. It's obviously not a one-size-fits-all situation. I think that leads to a lot of the confusion. Okay, the new book, The Microbiome Connection, is coming out in several weeks. You can find a link to that on our website at fox4news.com. Dr. Mark Pimentel, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.